Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. He Who Knits here. I'm Steve, and it's been a while, and I think when I look back at my videos, it has been pretty close to a year since the last time I posted any videos, and that would have been my Rhinebeck video from last year. Busy life. I'm not a rich YouTuber or anything like that, so I do have real job responsibilities and things like that. Anyway, so this is kind of the start of the new format of my channel, and I'm going to be doing a monthly type of vlog, so I feel like for consistency and everything else, monthly is the way to go. And so welcome to November. This will be my November video, first one, and we're just finishing up with the Halloween season and heading into Thanksgiving, although here in my house, we pretty much just consider this kind of the whole start to the holiday season. And if you must know, you see fall decorations behind me here, but it is not that long until the Christmas decorations go up. That's just the way it is here. And I like it. I like Christmas decorations too. It makes me feel good. So lots and lots to talk about here in the first video back again. This is the kind of brand new relaunch here, and we're going to be looking at a monthly format. So that's where we're headed. The other thing I would say is that comments. I love hearing comments about projects, about different things. So again, just reminding you that if you have any comments about anything I talk about, any questions, any helpful hints, because I'm not by any means any kind of an expert. So helpful hints. And in fact, I'm going to be talking about something today where I would like as much information, help, guidance, any of that you can offer me. So we'll be talking about that in just a minute. Let's just quickly cover this year. So last year, I went to both the Maryland Sheep and Wool and Rhinebeck, and I had a great time at both. This year, I went to neither one of those. And so, sitting here kind of vicariously watching videos of the people who went to Rhinebeck this year, my favorite channel to watch, and a shout out to Liz and Leanne over at Arrow Acres Farm, Cocktail Hour at the Coop, and I missed seeing you this year. Next year I'll catch up with you again. Anyway, so that's kind of it, and I do plan to go back to Rhinebeck next year. In fact, I think fairly soon I'm going to be looking to try to secure a hotel for next year, because that's just the way it goes. It's fast. Things fill up there. So I'm going to be looking into that, and hopefully be able to share my Rhinebeck adventures. I by no means had any kind of yarn shortage in my life. In fact, again, being busy, it wasn't just the videos that suffered, to be honest. I didn't knit quite as much over the past year, but I have picked it back up again recently, and I'm full steam ahead here with some new projects, and we'll get to that in just a minute too. So that kind of covers Rhinebeck, and what I'd like to know, of course, I've seen a couple of videos from people who went, but if you went to Rhinebeck this year, let me know. Some comments down below here. Tell me about your Rhinebeck experience and how it was this year compared to other years you went. I saw that it was a little rainier this year from some of the pictures, the videos I've seen. I remember last year when I went, the weather was beautiful and perfect, and it was almost too warm for my Rhinebeck sweater. Speaking of sweaters, let's start with what I'm wearing here. I don't know if you've seen this one before. I'll give you a better look. So there's the ribbing all up around the top. And this one was called, I believe, an anchor sweater. And this yarn, I'll give you a close-up on the yarn here. That was actually a Maryland sheep and wool purchase 2 years ago. And it was Kim Dye's yarn. Absolutely one of the most favorite colors that I've ever seen, and I loved it, and I made this sweater, and it is a perfect fit, and the wool, the yarn is amazing. So again, here we are. Get a look at the whole thing if you can, but it's ribbing all the way up around the top, and then it's just regular knit down toward the bottom. So one of the things that I've made here that I was actually able to complete, I do love a good sweater pattern, and of course I've made a few things to give away to friends as well. A couple of projects that I have stopped and frogged or just tossed to the side completely. But this sweater is one of my favorites now, and I'm going to show you another sweater that I'm actually currently working on, and I think you've seen it before, at least to some degree, but we'll talk about that in a minute too. The very first thing I want to get to here, the first item of business, is I have for a long time had a very serious addiction to sock yarn. I can't help myself. It's awesome, and I collect it, and I try to make socks, and in fact I do. I make socks, but the amount of sock yarn that I own really never seems to go away, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. So let me show you here first of all 2 socks that I actually finished up recently. So we'll start with this one, and this is a pair. You can see there's blue at the top, blue at the toe. And this actually came as a kit. I bought this at my favorite local yarn store, Ubiquitous. And hopefully sometime between now and the next video, I'm going to take another shopping trip to Ubiquitous. Maybe for the camera, get some pictures of the shop itself, video, that kind of thing. But anyway, this was a kit. It was the blue yarn for the toe and the top, and then it was this chocolate and blue, and you can get a really good look up here at that color. I just think it was such a cool color combination. So that's the one pair of socks that I actually finished here recently. And again, at the rate I was going, I started these quite some time ago and just never got around to finishing until recently. The other pair that I finished right here, and I didn't do separate colors for the top or for the toe. And I like to knit tube. Tube is kind of my favorite way to go. You know, part of it, yes, is that heels are no fun. But I've also discovered, at least for me, that I don't really care if the heel's built in there or not. I like a big, comfy tube in a really cool color. And so that's kind of been my thing here. But this pair, you can get a look up. This is the, actually for those of you out there who know about the show Stranger Things, this colorway is called Hellfire Club from the show. And I believe this was Bumblebee Acres yarn, and I picked this one up at Maryland 2 years ago, and I finally just finished it. Now, they do have a lot of really cool colorways on their website that you can shop for, although they do run out. They take a lot of it to the festivals, and then they run out of certain stuff. But like Lord of the Rings, they've got that kind of stuff up there. Game of Thrones kind of things, House of the Dragon, I believe, some Jane Austen stuff, some astrological sign kind of stuff. So really cool stuff there. Just know that it does sell out and probably never returns. But that's my second pair of socks that I finished recently. So I certainly have more, and just to show you in the near future what I'm going to be working with, one of my favorite colors, and I think this was from, in fact, let me check the tag here. Yes, Dragon Horde Yarn, and you can find them online. And so here's this color that I really like, and this one is called Slutty Pumpkin. So I really like that a lot. That's going to be maybe my next pair of socks, although I do have a more holiday themed chunk here that I actually might start working on soon. And this one is from, let's see, oh, it's the North Pole Bad Sheep yarn. Now, I have used their yarn before, so I know what I'm getting into here. Bad Sheep yarn. And this exact thing is called Shiny Bright. That's the name of that colorway. And then the last one I want to show you is one that I picked up, and it's another kit. And so this is the same company, the same yarn place that I had that blue and chocolate kit. And I got another kit. It's Aisling Yarns. And so this one, if you can see that nice and close up, it's got greens and browns and kind of a cream in there. This one's actually called Nightmare Before Christmas. That's what this, so possibly that could be my next sock as well. But staying on the subject of socks, here's the next thing I want to get into. I like socks, but I realize that I may never, ever in my lifetime get through the amount of sock yarn that I've got. So I've been intrigued. I've seen people, I've talked to people at festivals about a circular sock knitting machine. And I went back and forth on this for a while. I looked at it. I thought there was no way I would spend the money on something like that. But then I thought, maybe I will. So I did order a circular sock knitting machine. And there are a lot of places you can go there, antique, vintage kind of things that are, I think, full metal type of setups. And then there are super cheap knockoffs that you can get, and maybe they work really well. Maybe not, though, for couple of dollars. But after the research, here's what I went with. I went with a Dean and Bean sock machine, and that's pretty much what it looks like. I'm not going to tell you how much it costs, but I can tell you that it is a little bit of a commitment. And when you order one, you're waitlisted for a certain amount of time, and it took several months for this to get to me. But they give you a little wait list thing that you can look at and see kind of where you are in line. And that's it. It's plastic. And then here is the cylinder. And I got mine with 72 needles because that's the way I like my socks. So in theory, and there are other pieces that I'm not showing you, in theory, there's kind of a boom that comes out of here and your yarn goes through that down here to the front, and you turn the crank and socks appear. It's not that magically easy. So I've had this now for maybe 2 months, and I have yet to come close to any kind of socks. So here's where I'm calling on you out there. If you have one of these, if you've had experience with one of these, to start out, there's a little setup bonnet that you put on here, and I've got that, no problem there. And then you feed some waste yarn in here to get started, to start cranking, and then that's pretty much as far as I get. No matter how I set things up, once I start cranking, these needles don't catch the yarn the way they're supposed to, and I end up with gaps. I end up with yarn flying away here and there. There was one time that I did actually crank a couple of rows of waste yarn, but then when I went to attach my actual project yarn to it, it all went to hell. And so I'm very frustrated with this. Not saying anything against the company. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but I, for the life of me, cannot get a sock on this machine. And for what I paid for it, extra frustrating. So I am going to keep plugging away and trying. There are all tons of videos up on their website to take you through the different steps. But believe me, I've watched them tons of times and I still can't get anything close to a project started. So if you have any advice, tips, tricks, a magical fairy that will come out and set this up for me, whatever you've got, let me know, please. Otherwise, this is probably going to end up on eBay or Marketplace or somewhere else, and somebody else can try it, and I will happily give you a good deal on this sock machine if you want to take it off my hands. anyway, like I said, I am going to try a couple more times, and maybe magically somehow things will work out and I will be able to produce a pair of socks on this thing. But like I said, as of now, nothing has happened. So that's kind of been my biggest stressor, because I thought by now I would be a couple socks into my collection of yarn with this thing. That's why I bought it, so I could crank out socks and then focus my time more on my other projects. And that was the hope. Didn't really happen that way. So like I said, I'm gonna keep trying, see what happens with that. Okay, what next? I have a couple of projects that I'm working on that I can show you. One more yarn I want to show you. The family and I recently took a trip. We ended up in Canada, and this time we happened to be in St. John. And there was a really cool yarn shop there. And I went in and I found a yarn that I really liked. It's hard for me to go into a yarn shop without finding a yarn that I'm super into, and I like that one. And this is Ravenswood Fiber Company from Nova Scotia, Canada, which is where we were. This color is called Dusk on the Pond. It's a DK. I bought it. This was the only one they had in this color. Not sure what I'm going to do with it, but that's never really stopped me before from buying any kind of yarn. So it is what it is. That's what's happening with this. But on to the project. So I have, I think, 3 projects that I'm going to show you and talk about here. Let's go ahead and just start with the one that I have right on top of my cart beside me. And so I've always wanted to knit some kind of a blanket. And I've seen lots of patterns out there. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know I'm a Doctor Who fan. And I found some Doctor Who blankets. But at the same time, while I was kind of putting that off and trying to make up my mind, I happened to see one of my wife's Fiber Arts, maybe quilting magazine laying around. And I thought, wow, that quilting stuff's kind of cool. I don't really want to be a quilter, but I like the way they're set up. I like kind of that patchwork aspect of it. So I searched for a pattern to make squares. So I figure my plan, however ambitious it might be, is to knit a ton of squares and then put it all together as a blanket. And this is also a nice way to dive into that yarn collection currently, which stands at, aside from my knitting card, it stands at about 3 full Rubbermaids, the big ones, full of yarn. And then I have probably 2 more, we'll call them side baskets of yarn to kind of work with. And so a lot of it is this Aran type of weight. And I figured that, hey, I'll make a blanket. So I found this pattern from Fieldhouse Knits. And it's just simple garter stitch quilt blocks. There's the pattern right there. You can see kind of what I'm working with. And so you can do all these different types of patterns for the blocks. But I figured I've got all of this really cool yarn, not just solid, but different colors. And so I thought that I could knit a bunch of just plain regular squares with these different colors, and it'll all come together really nicely. And so I've done one. I've gotten through one, and this was something that I worked on and then kind of put it aside, but I need to come back to it to finish up. So based on those measurements here, there's my first block. You can get a closer look at that. And this is just knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. It's nothing too exciting. I just knit it on straight needles back and forth. And here's what the yarn, so this is the square, and this is the yarn that it actually comes from. And I picked this up at Maryland. I picked this up at Maryland. It was discounted. I got 2 huge hanks of this stuff. So the other one's the one I'm working on right now. And this is from Dyed Dreams. And it's called Autumn. So this particular yarn is a 55% mohair, 45% wool worsted. So I'm working with worsted, Erin, kind of throwing them together. But I know that a bunch of my squares are going to be this yarn right here. And I do have other interesting looking complementary yarns that I think I'm going to mix in. But I figure, what was this? About 490 yards for each hank of this. So I'm going to be able to get quite a few squares out of these. So I think this is going to be my primary, and then I'm going to mix in some other colors. I didn't bring them here with me. Any of the other colors I'm going to mix in. But if you have any suggestions, take a look at that again. That's an autumn. So it's got this orange and black and green, and even a little bit of pink in there, or rosy kind of red. If you have any suggestions for what complementary color schemes, now again, I'm not using anything solid here, so what you think might look good with this built into alternating squares, let me know, and I'll see if I have that and take your suggestions for this. Now, this didn't take long. These squares do not take long at all. It's just a matter of committing to mindlessly knitting squares. So I figure once I get going with that, everything is going to kind of fall into place, and that's going to just really blaze past. So that's one thing I'm working on right now. Like I said, I finished the socks. That was another project I was working on. So trying to get the sock machine into action is another thing that I've got to figure out how to do. Another project that I'm working on, let's see, which one should I show you first? I have one that I just started from scratch, and then I have another one that I'm kind of retrofitting to work on. So let's go with the retrofit first here. And I think way back when, in fact, I know, I showed you this sweater that I was working on, this big purple sweater, cabled in the front. If you can see, there we go, some cables in the front. Also a shawl collar. So as often happens, or at least often happens with me, I go back after I finished a project and I'm like, I don't really like it as much as I thought I would, or there's something that I wish I would have done differently. And so that's what I found with this. A little short, and I do, or at least early sweater work, I found that I was knitting things a little too short for myself. Not necessarily in the sleeves, but in the torso. And so I have adjusted that. This sweater, I ended up doing perfectly. I love the top-down stuff because then I'm really able to gauge very accurately how my sweater's doing and when I should cut it off. This one, couple of things about this. Number one, again, the length, well, I was not super crazy about. I do like this color, and there it is up close again. It's a purple, it's a heathered purple, and I like it. I like it a lot. And so that length was one thing. And so what I decided to do, and let's see if I have some of it here with me. I have this yarn, and you can see that it's got purple and blue and green and a little grayish stuff in there. Here's the quick story, and I think I've told this before. I found this at my local yarn shop, and it was, I can't even remember the company at this point, but I got 2 hanks of this stuff, planning to make a full-on sweater because I was assured that they could get me more of this exact color, dye lot, whatever. And so my friends at the yarn shop went through a very long and tedious process, trying very unsuccessfully to get more of this yarn. The people just didn't really seem to have it all together, which is why I'm not going to mention the company name here. But it's a beautiful yarn. I will say that. I love this. I wish I would have been able to get more. Didn't work out. So I didn't want to waste it. One of the things that I made that I didn't get a chance to show you here and I gave away was a scarf, and I did the scarf with this alternating with a cream, and I gave that away, and my friend was very happy with that solution. But anyway, so I have this left over, and I thought that that would be kind of a nice complement to this sweater. So I went back in, and at the bottom of my sweater, just a little bit of pickup here at the bottom, you can see up close that I've gone back in and added just a little bit of extra ribbing around the bottom. It's really only another, I'd say, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of length, but it actually made a difference visually when I put it on. Plus, again, you can kind of see here, it is a nice contrast to this sweater, and I like that. It's just a little bit of something extra visually, and I did it to the cuffs too, the sleeves. So that fixed kind of one of the issues I had with this sweater. The other issue I have is the collar. I really wanted to love this shawl collar, but I don't. So that's kind of what we have. And so a couple of things. Number one, where it meets here is very loose. And I don't know if that was the pattern or something I did. But I need to figure out how to make sure to tighten that up a little bit there in the neck. So, again, calling on you. If you have any idea how to maybe tighten up the shawl collar here right at the V where it meets, let me know about that. And then the other thing is the shawl itself. I don't know, but I feel like it's too big. And it doesn't really fold over in any kind of useful way that I can wear it and be happy about it. So I'm going to try to figure out exactly how to fix this to make it more wearable. Whether it is, I don't know, kind of pinning it down somehow, or going back a few rows and maybe tightening it up a little bit with that complementary yarn, maybe just a little bit of edging on that like I did with the sleeves and the bottom. The other thing is, and opinions please again, I have some brown buttons, and I wondered if maybe a button here in the front might not look kind of cool. So a couple of questions there for you. Help me deal with the neckline, help me deal with the shawl, tell me what you think about the buttons, and we'll come back to the sweater another time. But that's one of the things, and everything I did so far was pretty quick. I just picked up stitches and added more yarn. So once I get through the collar, I think we'll be doing okay. And the last project I have here to show you, let me dig it out of my cart. I'll show you the pattern first. So actually I'll show you the yarn first. I got this at Maryland 2 years ago again, and this was, I love this. But this was every bit as amazing to me as that one. And I hope you can see exactly what that looks like up here to the camera. So it's a chocolate brown, and it has, there you can see, it almost looks blue, like silvery gray blue mixed in here. And this is all natural. This is alpaca. It's called Twist of Heaven. And yeah, it's alpaca, and it's amazing. It's soft, and I decided long ago that I wanted to make a sweater, and I'm finally getting into that. So, sweater. Here is, I don't think I have the male version of this sweater. You could go either way. But ultimately, the sweater is supposed to look something like this. And all it really is a simple ribbed sweater. Again, it's got kind of that, well, there were two ways that they said you could do the neck. You could do the full-on neck or the mock neck. And I chose to go with the mock neck for mine. So here's where I am with this project. Admittedly, not super far in. Because I took a break to finish that sock and to also work on that sweater. But there I am, right there. And this is a circular knitting type of project, top down, again, as I like, and you can see the ribbing. And so this is actually a fisherman's rib rather than just standard ribbing. So it is taking a little bit longer. I really enjoy the way that the fisherman's rib feels and looks. It's very stretchy. This is a DK yarn, and so this helps give it a little fluffiness. It just takes a little bit longer to do just because the fisherman's stitch, knitting into the row below, if you're not familiar with it, it just takes just a little bit longer, so you can't really fly through it, I don't think anyway, the way that you could with just knit purl, or anything else. So a little bit more intricate here. I'll be interested to see how this works out as we start working our way down the sweater and we're doing increases and, you know, holding off for the sleeve holes and things like that. But there it is again. And I'll see if I can get you a better look here. I might have in my basket, or maybe not. I don't have the name here, but I can tell you. This is Delly's Delights Farm, D-E-L-L-Y, Delly's Delights, from Virginia. That might be the best I can do. There's a little website information if you're looking to get that. Of course, if you ask me, I'm happy to give you any of that information too. But that's that. That is that project. And like I said, this one I think is going to be kind of my winter-long project. I don't anticipate spending hours and hours at a time working on this just because it does get a little tedious and I like to mix projects around. But who knows? Who knows how long it'll take? I can't remember exactly how long this took. It's always hard to gauge too, because it's not like I just sit down and spend a couple of hours every single day working on the same project. So who knows? We'll see what happens there. That's it for projects. And I don't have anything else planned at the moment that I want to get into. That could all change once I start working through some of these things a little bit more. I really, I have some really great yarn, and I think I'll break it out for the December video and show you. I've had it packed away for a while. It's from Northern Waters in Canada. It's a really neat yarn. I don't remember exactly what kind of wool it is, but I have a bunch of different colors, and I have to figure out what to do with that. So I think I will try to remember to show you that in the December video, and maybe you've got some ideas what I can do with that really cool yarn. And the other thing that I think I'm going to start doing, depends if you leave me some comments and let me know if you'd be into this. I have leftover yarn, and I'm not talking about like scraps, but I'm talking about I bought too many hanks of yarn for a project just to be on the safe side, and then I've got something left over and I don't feel like using it anymore because I've already made a complete sweater out of it or something. Case in point, this one. I'm pretty sure I have a complete untouched hank of this. So what I would like to do is either figure out some kind of a giveaway type of deal to anyone who's interested in a leftover hank. So what I might do is monthly pick names from anybody who makes a certain comment on the video with a hashtag or something like that, and give away a hank of yarn that I've used in a project, or maybe it's something that I bought that I loved at the time, but I realize I'm probably never going to use. So let me know what you think about that too. I know I've asked a lot of questions here, so hopefully I get a lot of ideas back. But let me know if you would be interested even in some kind of a monthly yarn giveaway, something small. I would just mail it out to you, and you can do whatever you want with it. So comment down below about that. And otherwise, I think that I finally run out of things to talk about here in November. Yeah, I've run out of things to talk about here in November. So I guess the last thing to do is just to remind you that I do really appreciate comments and feedback and I know I've asked for a lot of help here in this video too for certain things, so I appreciate that as well. Yeah, comment, do whatever you need to do. I'm not going to beg for subscribers or anything like that because it is what it is. Like I said, I'm not profiting off of these videos. I'm just doing them for fun. Anyway, that's it. I appreciate you all being here for kind of the channel reboot for He Who Knits. I am Steve again, and thank you for sitting with me here in November, and I will see you next month.